It is May 28th, 2025, and this is our May meeting of the E-SPLOST Citizens Advisory Committee. And it is now 6:04 and the meeting is called to order. We do not have a quorum, so we cannot do 2 and 3, so we will skip over those and we will go into 4.
Kathy, I'll try to speak to 4 if I may, particularly 4A, the report on SPLOST items from the May board meeting. I'll actually share a screen to make it easy for folks to follow along. The first item is change order number 8 for the Henderson Mill Elementary School major systems replacement project that went to Centennial Enterprises for $188,000, $594.13. That change order for the Henderson Mill project was to provide a new water main at the district's request. I'll just keep going. Next item was change order number 6 to Centennial Enterprises for the Briar Vista Elementary School major building system replacement project. That's to install new kitchen HVAC equipment per the district request and to try to permanently cure a water intrusion problem in the lower level of the main building. The next item is actually a contract award, which would fall into agenda item 5, Kathy, to be honest. It is the award of the construction manager at risk, typically written as CMAR, to Evergreen Construction for the Kingsley Elementary School HVAC replacement renovations project, and additionally a pre-construction fee of $100,000 to Evergreen was approved to handle the pre-construction services for that project. The next item that was submitted and approved was a E-SPLOST 5 project budget adjustments, essentially closing out completed projects and moving those funds into program contingency for SPLOST 5 in the amount of $2,819,753.42. The next SPLOST item presented at the May board meeting was the guaranteed maximum price approval for the Idlewood Elementary School HVAC systems replacement project and renovations project. That was approved for Balfour Beatty in the amount of $33,004,126. That item also included an amendment to Cooper Carey, Inc., the architect of record, in a not to exceed amount of $732,248. The next SPLOST item was approval of the final guaranteed maximum price for the Murphy Candler HVAC systems project. Systems replacement and renovations project. The awardee is Balfour Beatty Construction. The final GMP amount is $32,864,610, and that board action also included an amendment to Cooper Carey, Inc. for not to exceed amount of $941,255. And the last board action is not actually SPLOST. So Kathy, that concludes the items 4A and 5. Happy to take questions.
All right, thank you so much. Mel, on behalf of DeKalb County School System. Are there any questions for Mel in regards to the Board of Education items presented for the SPLOST? All right. Moving right along into 5.
We actually covered 5 as part of 4, but we can circle back if you care to.
Nope, if we did that, that's fine. We're good.
Yes, we did. We covered the contract award for Kingsley, and technically the 2 guaranteed maximum price approvals are not contract awards, but they kind of fall into that category as well.
Okay,
So I think
perfect.
we're good. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mel.
So I think we're up to 6.
Yeah, we are.
Mhm.
Daniel?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Okay, hopefully you all can hear me now. We received 2 emails since the last meeting. One regarding E-SPLOST reporting from the May meeting. Let's see. Concerns the fact that E-SPLOST 5 and E-SPLOST 6 financials for February 2025 presented at the March 26, 2025 board meeting shows higher commitments and expenditures than the March 2025 data presented on May 12, 2025. Let's see, but comparing the school district reports, commitments decreased by 12.2 million. Report expenditures decreased by 9 million from February 2025 to March 25. So let's see, and the email includes a presentation from the May 12, 2025 board meeting. Let's see, and the email was copied to you, Eric. That was, let's see, and that was sent on May 17th, 2025. And the second email was sent on May 22nd, asking for an update. I've been on the website looking for an update to the Dunwoody Elementary School project, but not seeing an update. Could you please direct me to that information? Let's see. So yeah, it was basically a website related inquiry. And those were the only correspondence I received since the last meeting.
Okay, thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Since Eric is on the phone, I really wanted us to kind of chat about, because I'm concerned about the email that Nancy Kelly sent on May 17th. And Eric, I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to read and digest and investigate that email.
Is this about the change in expenditures?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's part of the reason why I'm here, so I can talk to part of that. One of the things that's important to keep in mind with the quarterly reports that we put out is that they are snapshots at the end of each month. And what that means is any changes, however temporary, to the financial system, what's in Munis, will be reflected. So whatever you see at the end of March, when we pull that report, that's what gets reported. In this case, what's happening is our finance department working with us, we're going back and looking at all of the expenses in the general ledger and the project ledger. It's something that doesn't come up too often, but when Munis was first instituted in the district in 2018, at the time, the way that Munis was implemented didn't allow for viewing cost codes as life to date. It was always fiscal year to fiscal year. That's what finance needed. That's what made sense for the most of the district, but that's not acceptable for capital projects. Capital projects are life to date from when the contract is signed to when it's completed. So in order to allow for that, we needed to have what was called a project ledger, which is it's not a separate ledger so much as it's off to the side. It's actually within the general ledger. Everything that touches the project ledger touches the general ledger. But what it allows for is that life-to-date reporting. Now, since then, over the years, since 2018, the general ledger and the district's use of it, not the general ledger, excuse me, Munis and the district's use of it have grown, I would say, enough that that's no longer a constraint. In fact, we're working with the finance department to eventually move away from having a project ledger and a general ledger. But in the meantime, that's still something that's the case. And it also means that sometimes, like, while it is supposed to be the case that everything that touches the project ledger touches the general ledger and vice versa, it's not. It technically is possible for something to touch one without touching the other. And then what that means is there needs to be a reconciliation on a regular basis. And that's something that has been done, but hasn't been done as thoroughly as it probably should be. And so finance has been doing that over the last few months. One of the things that that's resulted in is certain expenses that were in the project ledger, but not in the general ledger. That's much more often the case. That's why we report off the project ledger, because we in operations, that's what we check. We make sure that everything, that all the expenses we know are there are in the project ledger. And sometimes if an expense is in the project ledger, but not in the general ledger, in order to correct that, finance has taken it out, backed out the project ledger expense, and then put in the new record, which was the original expense getting to both ledgers, the general and the project. But what that creates is temporarily, for the time when they've taken out the project ledger side, but haven't yet added back both, it looks like those expenses have gone away. And so that's the case that happened at the end of March. At this point, I believe everything that was backed out has been added back. And this is just a way of making sure that everything is fully recorded everywhere that it's supposed to be. That's why it looked like at the time in that snapshot, expenditures had gone down, whereas in reality, that was just a snapshot of where we were in the process. It's one of the main reasons why when we do end of the fiscal year reporting, when finance does that reporting, extra time is taken so that they can make sure that's not just a snapshot. It actually is a reflection of all of the expenses during that fiscal year, as opposed to our reporting, which is snapshot in time. As of this date, what did this ledger look like, if that makes sense? So any questions about that?
Yes, this is Lisa. Good evening, everyone. I have a question about the reconciliation process. What
Sure.
has changed, and when will it, what has changed? What has been done so we won't continue to see it, or we'll catch it at the time that we're reporting?
The main change is that it's something that like we have staff in the district on the finance side, not just on the operations side, who are devoted to capital improvement. That wasn't always the case. It's something that we do have now that we didn't for many years. And so this is a process that is supposed to happen really every month. And then, a double check at the end of the year just to make sure before fiscal year is closed out, did everything that's in your project ledger touch the general ledger, vice versa. That wasn't always the case. And so now that this person's on board, and they have been, for a while, but this is just a part of their process, is to go through and make sure everything is what it's supposed to be. This wasn't a priority in the past, because generally this is something that, as long as it's in the project ledger, it's been reported. It's in our reporting. If it's not in the general ledger, then generally that's something that is addressed as part of that fiscal year. But once that fiscal year is done, once finance has closed out a fiscal year, then they've moved on to the next. If there are any errors, we make sure that they're corrected on the project ledger side. That's our life to date. That's what we report. But in the past, because Munis has been, especially in that earlier portion from 2018 to, I'd say 2022, 23, was really on a fiscal year to fiscal year basis. There wasn't an incentive, there wasn't a benefit to going back and correcting any issues or errors where something appeared on the project ledger, but not the general ledger. Now there is. Now it is worthwhile to make sure that that general ledger record is correct and what it's supposed to be. And so that's what is happening. Almost every single one of those expenses, a lot of them actually come from the 2018 Crosspoint to Munis transfer over, where expenses were put into the project ledger correctly, but didn't hit the general ledger, because at the time the general ledger, in fact, actually in FY19, in late 2018, the district was still not on Munis. We had implemented it for capital projects, but it wasn't district-wide. And so that's actually where a lot of these things come from, is pre-2020, especially in that fall of 2018 time period. And so it's making sure that all of those records that were correctly put into the project ledger also appear in the general ledger from back then. Once that's done, and in fact, I think we're almost finished with it, then it's done. You don't have to do it again. Everything is in the general ledger where it's supposed to be, as well as the project ledger where it's been this whole time.
Will this update also impact that contingency number that was a source of concern, where when you had that reserve, that contingency, and no one knew what the details were, and the former board member, I forgot her name, was, she had raised questions about it. We were supposed to get back up on that too. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I think so. Well, and contingency is a budget issue, and the budget hasn't changed. That hasn't been affected by this. This is purely a recording of expenses, making sure that it's recorded both in the project ledger and the general ledger, which 99.99% of everything is, but there's a few things that have come up that were only in the project ledger.
No, so I'm not. Yeah, I'm clear on your reconciling expenses to the project ledger. I'm good on that. I'm asking about how does all these updates impact that contingency number that we couldn't get information on what made up that number, and it became a board issue.
Well, as I said, contingency is a budgetary thing, so this doesn't impact it at all. I do know with what went to the May board, those SPLOST 5 closeouts, there was an attachment as part of that agenda item that was a detailed list of every single movement of budget in and out of program contingency in SPLOST 5. So I see Sabrina McTeer has a hand up.
I'm waiting for Lisa to finish.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So did that answer your question?
I'm done.
Okay.
I thank you, Madam Chair. It's okay to continue.
Absolutely. If Lisa's finished, yes. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not okay with the actuals. And so my question is literally about, how did this affect your ACFR? Or how did this, if we're saying, and I want to make sure that I understand and that I'm not missing anything. If the project ledger is a subledger to the general ledger, and the general ledger is what should have been used, and I guess this is getting out of the E-SPLOST realm, but the former controller in me is now even, and former auditor in me is now even more piqued with, what are we saying? Are we saying that the district's financial reporting that had been audited on was understated?
No, and it's important to keep that in mind, that the general
Okay.
ledger was not the ledger of record for SPLOST. That was the project ledger. That's why so much effort has been made into making sure the project ledger was correct, or is correct, and that we report on the project ledger, not the general ledger. And because of the circumstances I mentioned, where the general ledger for a long time, or just Munis in general, that general ledger was a fiscal year to fiscal year vehicle. Back in 2018 and 19, when the district wasn't using Munis as its financial system of record to the same extent, there was no incentive on finance, not operations, but on finance's part, to make sure that SPLOST expenses hit the general ledger correctly in every single perfect case perfectly, because we made sure that it hit the project ledger and what we reported on correctly in every case. But especially as time moved on, there was no incentive to look backwards and say, oh, we discovered this $20,000 expense or whatever it was that was correctly in the project ledger and reported on, but just wasn't recorded in the general ledger. Well, we're now 2 fiscal years out. That's not something that's worth going back to. Well, now that the district that finance is fully on Munis, it's in their interest to go back and make sure that that historic record is correct. And so they've been going back, looking at the project ledger, making sure that everything that appears in the project ledger appears in the general ledger. And so that's where a lot of this has come from. It was not needed before, whereas now it has become needed and worthwhile for finance to make sure that that general ledger historic record is correct. The project ledger is and always has been correct, and that's why it is what we report on. When we report out, we don't report on the general ledger for that reason. Once this is fully reconciled and once we have that process, we're on a month by month and year by year basis, we're confident that these two are the same. We may begin actually being able to move away from just having a project ledger under the general. And as I mentioned before, that's something that we're looking at potentially moving forward. We're just being very conservative in doing that so that we always have a perfect, trustworthy record of expenses as we go along. And this is a part of that.
Okay, thank you. For clarity, when you say or have stated that the project ledger is the record
Mhm.
that has been reported on, I don't mean for a E-SPLOST audit. I mean for your external financial audit. You're reporting on the project ledger when it comes to capital assets, CIP, your MD&A. Like, this isn't an E-SPLOST question. This is are we saying that the district's records, not for the E-SPLOST audit, but for the external financial audit, that the expenditures, instead of using the general ledger, you use the project ledger when audit work had to be done?
No, and I did kind of gloss over it, but that gets back to what I was saying, where it wasn't until relatively recently, I don't know the exact year, I believe it was 2022 or 3, when the district's Munis became the district's system of record fully for everything. Up until we had Munis, we used Munis for some things, but there was still a lot of cross-point data, a lot of cross-point records that were happening, and that's what was used in the reporting. The general ledger was there, but it wasn't used for everything. Since then, we have transitioned, are using Munis and the general ledger for everything at the district level. It's prior to that there were inconsistencies. So because prior to then, in 2018, 19, so on, if there was something that didn't hit Munis's general ledger, it wasn't an auditing issue. Crosspoint was used for the district as a whole. The project ledger, which operations audits and looks at and make sure it's correct, was used for our reporting. And so reporting was good on both fronts. Now, however, Munis is being used for both, which for anything current is great. But in looking back at previous fiscal years, now there's this question of, oh, for these years when we had Munis, but weren't using it as our system of record, do we have everything correctly recorded? And in the case of capital projects, we can see that there are some inconsistencies, and that's not very many, especially for the size of program that we have. But that's where the effort's being made to go back to those 5+ years old expenses at this point and make sure that they're correctly recorded in both the general and project ledger.
Okay, thank you so much. I would strongly encourage. I know that there hasn't been, I guess you said, an incentive to do so, but when it comes to projects that are finishing, coming out of CIP and becoming assets that you now have to depreciate, I would think that the total value needs to then, be completely accounted for And going forward, yes, these changes can be made while assets are, it's still in construction in progress, or you're still reporting it a certain way. One day you won't have that historical somewhere else to pull from. And so if reporting is going forward in Munis, whether project ledger, whether general ledger, I would strongly encourage that it's reconciled, updated, so that you have the system of record going forward, and you don't have to point here, look there. So I concur with everything that you're saying. I just needed to make sure that I understood what was also being said. And I see the value in, if you're going to report something, so that you don't have those inquiries going forward about a mismatch or a discrepancy in the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Appreciate that. The question I have for you, Hans, in regards to this issue is, if we are, and we being DeKalb County school systems, are going back to confirm and reconcile and bring forward the Munis system or the project ledger. No, I'm sorry, project ledger is the one that is the system, is the correct record, correct?
Yes.
If we're doing that, then it would seem to me that we also need to have an amended reporting of all of those, because if there's any difference, we need to know. Well, we don't need to know. The board actually needs to know what those differences are, if there are differences. But
Yeah, if this were to result in differences in the project ledger, that is absolutely the case. We would need to make a note of that in our next report. Remember, as I said, SPLOST reporting or capital reporting is life to date. So if something changes, it's not a case of going back into the reporting record and saying, oh, back in this time it was that. It's this is now the thing, what it's supposed to be. That being said, any changes in the project ledger absolutely need to be noted and correctly recorded. But almost everything that we're seeing that I'm aware of has been changes to the general ledger, where we've needed to back out the project ledger expenses and put a new record. But from the project ledger's point of view, it looks like those go away and come right back exactly as they were. It's only the general ledger that sees it coming in again new 6 years ago, that six-year-old expense, which is also why we see this in SPLOST 5. We did not see anything like this in SPLOST 6. It's really those old expenses. But yeah, a rambly way of saying you're absolutely right. Any changes that may result in the project ledger absolutely do need to be noted and recorded, and an explanation given for what happened from 1 month to the next. That's something that you'll see on the next quarterly report. At the end of June, there'll be another quarterly report. The formatting will probably be a little bit different. We're working with HPM, our new program consultants, on what that'll look like. It'll be largely, the information will be the same, but I would be surprised if the formatting, wouldn't be surprised if the formatting is a little bit different. And any changes, anything like that comes up, we'll make sure is noted, and there's explanations given for what happened, what it is, and what the results may be. But as of right now, I can't think of any examples like that. All of the issues I can think of were things that were correctly recorded in the project ledger that were not in the general.
okay, so when we do we have to provide to the state for reimbursement any financial information?
For reimbursement, we need to provide pay apps, invoices, that sort of thing. We need to provide contracts. That's the level of financial information they need. they don't need item like cost code by cost code expenses. They need the actual, like every bit of information that went into those expenses. Yes.
Okay.
I think what's important is for reimbursement, like some of the geotechnical work, like if we get a survey, or a better example might be a survey. An early part of the project may be getting a survey done of the property. That is an expense in the for the project, but that's not an expense we would report to for reimbursement because it's not a reimbursable expense. That's not a Whereas the architect's contract and all of the expenses under that, the contractor's contract and all of the expenses, those are the things that we report on and get reimbursed for.
Okay, so there may be expenses that actually occurred, but we're not reporting them as reimbursable expenses.
Yeah, the majority of SPLOST expenses are not reimbursable, yes. On a given project, it's because a lot of expenses on a lot of projects aren't reimbursable. You think of, technology, you think of, I mean, even some of our projects like Sequoia Middle and High, those we're not getting reimbursement for those schools. Not everything we do is reimbursable. However, everything we can get reimbursement for, we do try and get reimbursement for. That is absolutely the case. So yes, there are expenses that we don't, I won't say we don't report to the state. We report to them like all SPLOST expenses, but the Georgia Department of Education Facilities Division that does the reimbursement for capital outlay doesn't require all of those expenses, just everything related to the architect and general contractor.
Okay. All right. I didn't see Miss Kelly on, so hopefully she'll listen to this recording. Is it a plan to respond to her email?
I'm not sure I can answer that one. I'd have to go back and talk with Eric and Mel and
Yes.
see the specific-
Short, so simple answer is yes. I just got back into town, so I'm still getting all my emails done. So I'm working through it, but we'll respond to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Eric.
right, good. Thank you. All right, so we'll move right along to the monthly report. Mel?
Thank you, Kathy, and good afternoon or good evening, esteemed committee members and colleagues. We'll dive right into our regular report. Of course, we go through our procurement activity, provide a status of the SPLOST programs by phase, talk about our active construction projects, active design projects, any project planning notes. We review the tables from the old monthly financial report, speak to any schedule claims or change order exposure, and we should have some progress photos as well. So jumping right into it, no projects were advertised for AE services nor construction services. No contracts were awarded for AE services. We did have a contract awarded for construction services, which I mentioned in agenda items 4A and 5. That's the Kingsley Elementary School HVAC system replacement and renovations. And that's the to Evergreen Construction in the Construction Manager at Risk or CMAR delivery method. Along with that, there was $100,000 pre-construction fee applied to that contract. I had mentioned a couple guaranteed maximum price proposals approved in the period. And that says Ashford Park Elementary, but that's not correct. That's Idlewood Elementary. And as I mentioned in item 5, the GMP for Idlewood is at $33,004,126. We also mentioned the final GMP approval for the Murphy Candler HVAC system replacement renovations at $32,864,610. Couple of active solicitations. We mentioned the elevator cab modernization last time. We did get proposals on May 1st. Only 2, in fact, and unfortunately only 1 was responsive. So our recommendation to procurement, and the district elected to cancel that solicitation and rebid that work. They'll procurement doing additional outreach to vendors and also considering trying to leverage the existing piggyback contract. The fire alarm replacement program covers 38 facilities. We're utilizing the AE's pre-qualified list for projects under 2 million. Purchase order requests for architects BRPH and Croft are in process, and we're waiting a proposal from GMC to finish out the AE solicitations for that one. Security Vestibule Group 3 proposals, CMAR proposals, were received on the 8th, and we're waiting for the final evaluation schedule from procurement. For Security Vestibule Group 4, it turns out it's only 7 facilities. Again, using the AE's pre-qualified list, and our purchase order requests are submitted to finance. And as soon as they're issued, we'll get our AEs in for the kickoff meetings. In terms of your project budget totals by phase, we are currently at the bottom line, $673,357,074.93. And that's against what is an approved budget of $630.3 million. However, as you'll see in the financial section, the total forecasted budget is $770 million. We'll talk about that in a minute. So good progress on SPLOST 5. For SPLOST 6, total expenditures are up to $55 million. And we're making good headway in the construction categories. You can see now up to $25 million in expenditures in construction. With the approval of the GMP for Sequoia in April and Cross Keys in March, we'll probably add another $25 million before the end of the year. So we'll be making good progress on SPLOST 6 expenditure totals. In terms of those major projects at Cross Keys High School addition and modernization, the site work at the stormwater detention structure is ongoing. The building permit is under review by Brookhaven. Technically, it's 10 building permits. We've got 10 phases, if you will, 4A and 4B, so to speak, and 7 of those 10 phase permits are issued. We mentioned the final GMP proposal of $143 million. Big news, the bus loop grading is essentially complete, and we need the district to coordinate with Brookhaven regarding a traffic signal box to make that bus loop work, the new bus loop. At your new elementary school at Dresden, major progress, which we'll see in the photos. Site work, the building pad and the underground utility work is ongoing. The detention pond, number 1, excavation has commenced. The issue at Dresden is the fact that we mentioned previously, Georgia Power advised that the modular classroom building in the power line easement needs to be relocated ASAP. The CMAR, the construction manager at risk of winter for Dresden, has investigated that. It's a pricey effort, and the district will be engaging Georgia Power in that response. By way of reminder, the Druid Hills modernization architect was asked to review 3 alternate scenarios for the location of a high school program, and expecting those 3 reports, draft reports, end of May, maybe next week, early June. At the new middle school and high school at Sequoia, as I mentioned, the full GMP of $228.7 million was approved at the April board meeting. They're making good progress. The construction trailer and active service yard is complete. They've made good progress on their site work and their underground utility work. And the building pad preparation has started, so that's a good deal. One schedule note, we need that building permit by mid-June to start foundations to stay on schedule, so the architects team is chasing that closely. Don't expect any problems, but we just want to stick a pin in that. In terms of the ongoing projects at Briar Vista, I mentioned the change order work for the kitchen upgrades being approved at the May board meeting. Lead time on that equipment suggests they won't be able to start in summer, but it'll be towards fall when that equipment gets delivered. So the contract will be scheduling that with the district's approval. And the security vestibule work that was approved previously is expected to be completed in the summer. At Champion, everything's ready for the phase 2 summer work. Pretty robust scopes of work, and so a lot of cooperation from the school there. No problems to report. Finishing up projects in E-SPLOST 5 at Chestnut, new diffusers on the Carter fan coil units remain to be installed. We had asked the builder when, and they're waiting for their HVAC system supplier to get back to them. At DeKalb High School of Tech South, the elevator addition was approved at the April board meeting, and we'll start on that construction this summer. At Farrington, the HVAC work is continued satisfactorily, and that project is expected to wrap up this summer. At Hawthorne, we're 100% complete. Closeout is active. At Henderson Mill, we mentioned previously that the electrical switchgear will be installed over the summer, and the new security vestibule is tentatively scheduled for summer 2025 construction. Laurel Ridge is in closeout. For your HVAC controls upgrades, there's a quick list of the facilities that are 100% complete. Key for the HVAC controls effort is the fact that we need to prioritize our summer construction projects, and then we'll move back to the detailed schedule that they've provided. At Livesey Elementary, packing materials, boxes, tape, etc., were delivered to the school to allow them to start relocations to support summer construction. At Midvale, the big deal is the elevator addition is complete, and it's awaiting access controls to be installed. DCSD is currently reviewing a change order for a security vestibule, and that's tentatively scheduled for June board meeting approval. At Nancy Creek facility, the CMAR has remobilized this week, and they anticipate completing that project this summer. At Redan, progress will continue over the summer. That project probably won't wrap until summer of next year. Same for Salem. As middle schools, 150,000 square foot each, it's a lot of work. And of course, these projects were delayed due to access from portables. In terms of roof replacement, McClendon Elementary and Oakview Elementaries are essentially complete, just wrapping up metal and flashing. McNair High School is 99% complete. Kittredge is ongoing. It's about 90% complete, and the repair/improvement to the roof drain system will happen this summer. For Group 2, 99% complete for Martin Luther King Jr., Lithonia High School, and Jolly Elementary. Pretty much means roofing is complete, metal and detail flashing, and a couple of roof drains remain. Replacement Group 3, Chamblee Middle School is about 25% complete. I know the shingle roofs are done, and they're going to move on to the built-up roofing. At Hightower Elementary, they were prepared to start. We're asked to hold off till testing was complete. Same for Margaret Harris. And I think most of that should have started this week. In terms of security vestibule, Group A at McNair High School, that was that remaining vestibule. The access controls are complete. At Tony Elementary, paired up with Livesey Elementary, packing materials have been delivered to support relocations for summer construction. Woodridge closeout is ongoing. Parking additions Group A, you may recall that DeKalb stormwater permit review dictated retention designs that resulted in major cost increase and requests for change orders from the builder. Those change order requests are under review by the district, and a tentative June board meeting submittal for approval. For parking additions Group B, the design work is complete. It's been submitted for permitting. I'm told that should be coming out of permitting soon, and there's a hope to start that work, repaving work, this summer. At your Narvey Harris Gym HVAC and security vestibule project, The request for the GC solicitation has been submitted and the procurement schedule is pending. Similarly for Winbrook Elementary Gym HVAC and security vestibule. For Clarkston, which gets a new elevator, security vestibule, and an ADA restroom, we're targeting summer 2025 construction. And the big issue there is existing IT equipment racks. Effectively, it's an MDF room, but not really. We've got to work around that, so it's extra care and feeding on that one. And the change order to add the gym HVAC, to add the security vestibule to the Oakview Gym HVAC project is slated for approval at the board June meeting. At Stoneview Elementary, the key there is a redesign to the HVAC system, changing it to a variable refrigerant valve system. And the AE has requested additional fee based on the new scope and the new SCL to keep going. So that's a follow-up for the PM. At Rock Chapel, the AE has commenced basically almost halfway done the new HVAC system for the 1998 building. Right now, the timing for that project is under consideration by the district. At the Ashford Park Elementary HVAC system replacement renovations project, the GMP was approved in April, and the tentative construction start is now fall. At Allgood Elementary, the preliminary report and schematic design drawings were submitted. They're in review. The schematic design estimate is about $21 million. It's an HVAC system replacement and a renovations project. I'm sorry, I didn't have that written there. At Idlewood, we mentioned that the final GMP was approved at the April board meeting, approximately $33 million. At the International Student Center at Midway, construction is scheduled to start this summer, mostly external to the building, no displacement of administration. At Murphy Candler, I mentioned the GMP was approved at the May board meeting. What they'll be doing this summer is setting up modulars to allow students to move in to start the school year August 1st. And then we'll start renovations on the actual building. For your security vestibules in SPLOST 6, for Group 1, we're expecting a GMP from the CMAR in early July and would look to request approval of that GMP in August. For Group 2, the GMP is due from the CMAR in early June, and we plan to request approval of that GMP in July. Both of those look like a fall 2025 start date. And for design, for Group 3, design is ongoing. We did get the schematic designs. They're under review. I mentioned the CMAR proposals were due, were submitted, and in review. The review is being scheduled by procurement. We had mentioned previously that we tried to use existing SPLOST 5 projects to pick up scope that would have happened much later in SPLOST 6. There's the list of projects for security vestibules. We also mentioned fire alarm in that same conversation. There's the list of fire alarms added to SPLOST 5 projects, presuming the GMPs are approved. And we did complete fire alarm replacement in the summer projects at Chestnut, Laurel Ridge, and Woodridge. Now we'll jump right into our financial report. No change to our GISFIC reimbursements. We're at a total of $94,363,830.31. And you can see the breakdown between SPLOST 4 and SPLOST 5. For E-SPLOST 5 sales tax receipts, as everyone knows, we're complete at $616.89 million. For E-SPLOST 6, we're currently at $421.6 million at the end of April, and that's a $12.9 million increase from the end of March. The forecasted sales receipts through April were $414.2 million, So we're about 7.4 million above plan this month. We're about 7.8 million above plan last month. So still trending pretty good. Interest earned on E-SPLOST 5 revenue deposits now totals $35,410,215.08, and that's an increase of about $900,000 from the end of March. Interest earned on E-SPLOST 6 revenue deposits totaled $26,208,718.40 at the end of April, and that's about 1.4 million increase from the end of March. All E-SPLOST 5 construction budgets versus cost performance are in good standing, as indicated by our cost performance report. All greens, a couple yellows, no reds. All E-SPLOST 6 construction budgets versus cost performance metrics are in good shape for those projects that have a board approved budget. And the cost performance report shows all green for those projects that have board approved budgets. So we're in good shape there. In terms of exposure, no schedule delays reported this period. No claims by the architects or the builders. Did have a number of amendments and change orders approved in the period, starting with Redan Middle School. Amendment number 2 to GMC in the amount of $13,559.19 for increased construction administration fee due to the extended construction schedule. At Druid Hills Middle School, change order number 3 to Evergreen in the amount of $31,274 to replace the existing PRV station at the district's request. At DeKalb High School Tech South, the change order number 4 to Evergreen in the amount of $1,150,394 for that new elevator and miscellaneous district. At Farrington Elementary, similar to Redan, amendment number 2 to GMC in the amount of $7,564.70 for increased construction administration fee due to the extended construction schedule. At Salem, similarly to Redan and Farrington, amendment number 2 to GMC in the amount of $28,757.63 for the increased construction administration fee. At Champion Theme Middle School, amendment number 3 was issued to SSOE Stevens and Wilkinson in the amount of $1,987,229 for additional design scope related to phase 2 and the Old Rock Gym, and to adjust the original fee to reflect the GMP award value. I mentioned the Henderson Mill change order in the amount of $188,594.13 to provide a new water main. At Briar Vista, we mentioned change order number 6 to Centennial in the amount of $534,629.99 for that new kitchen HVAC equipment and that waterproofing at the lower level. At the new middle school and high school at Sequoia, amendment number 2 is issued to GMC.
Hey,
in the
Mel,
amount of, yes, ma'am.
before we go on, and I don't mean to interrupt you rudely, but what's the difference between owner request, if you go back to the previous slide, owner request? I've seen that a couple of times. What does that mean?
The district requested that the builder, the contractor, do the work. Typically, it's because we need to. It's usually not a volition, but the district has to direct the contractor to do that if it's not in the original scope of work.
Okay, so would that be different than board approved? Wouldn't that be the same, basically almost near the same thing?
Correct. We note board approved when in fact, well, any item over $100,000 has to go to the board. And typically I stick that in there when the item had discussion at the board meeting. But you make a good point. Yes, those others would be board approved. Anything over 100 board approved. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification.
Good point. Thank you. I mentioned the No, I didn't. We've got amendment number 3 to Corrigan in the amount of $811,564.20 for additional design scope and to adjust the fee at Ashford Park Elementary HVAC replacement project to reflect the final approved GMP value. At Idlewood Elementary, amendment to Cooper Carey in the amount of $732,248 for the additional design scope and to adjust the fee to reflect the final approved GMP value. Same at Murphy Candler, an increase in the amount of $941,255 to cover the additional design work and to adjust the fee to reflect the final approved GMP value per the AE's contract. As I mentioned, no delays reported this period, no requests for claims from the builders or the architects this period. And we do have some progress photos. Share, I'll upload those up a little bit. So across Keys, there was initial work, site work on the top photo. Additional site work. Hanging wall. At the new elementary school at Dresden, your foundation walls are rising. There they are placed after the forms are stripped. There's an underground sanitary main rough-in. Foundations ready to be poured. Foundations poured at zone C and reinforcement steel rebar in place for the building walls. I mentioned that detention pond number 1. This is the material staging for it. And there are extensive safety measures at Dresden because the bulk of the students are in, not quite half the students are in modular classrooms. At the new middle school and high school at Sequoia, the site work is picking up. Still no wall being constructed. And got a close up. It's quite an installation, quite frankly. Roof replacement at Briar Vista, essentially complete. Roof replacement at Jolly Elementary, essentially complete. That concludes my formal remarks. Happy to take questions.
All right, any questions for Mel in regards to the monthly report? Oh, all right, thanks,
Yes.
Mel.
Go
Appreciate
back
it.
to the agenda. Quite welcome, my pleasure.
On to facilities maintenance report.
I don't think we have any of the facilities maintenance data at the moment. That was something that Richard was putting together before, so for this month, I don't think we have any of that information.
Okay, so we'll see, next month we'll see, May's report and June's report. Is that a safe statement?
I believe so.
That will be April. All right, moving right along to, I guess that's 8A and B. 9, the Board of Education reports. Daniel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did attend, well, I should say I watched the board meeting. Wasn't able to attend in person, so I had to watch the live stream. Unfortunately, due to work, I came in during Eric's report. We'll also talk about capital projects and what Mel had referenced of the modulars that had to be or that need to be relocated as per Georgia Power. There was also the mention of the groundbreaking on May 13th for Sequoia Middle School. Let's talk about our work in the summer and the parameters around that work schedule. There were 37 active projects, 38 8 projects in the design phase. There was a question about the design phase, like how long it would take, and answer was usually takes about a year. That includes 3 budget checks and permits. And then there was a long discussion about the A&O report, and a very interesting discussion about the demographics and the different demographics and who's taken SAT and the ACT in which district. So there was a lot of interesting discussion about that. It was, that sorry. Well, discussion about the discrepancies with SAT and ACT, and a big or some discussion about the percentage of AP offerings in the northern part of the district as opposed to the southern part. Also, a breakdown of the number of teachers with full professional designations. There was also some talk about students with limited English proficiency. And one statistic that stood out was there was a higher percentage of students with limited English proficiency in older school buildings. Sure there'll be more discussion about that in future board meetings. I know Dr. Horton did mention that 10,000 juniors and seniors took the SAT on SAT Day. Let's see. And so there's other stuff. Well, one thing that one observation I did make in this board meeting, as opposed to in comparison to the last board meeting I attended, the tone was very different. It was a lot of questions, a lot of good questions that were asked, and the board definitely seems more engaged than the previous board, and they seem to be more more cohesion with this board than the previous board. So a lot of good and sober discussion. So that's pretty much it for my report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Any, do you feel that because there's a new board that the old tensions are gone?
I would say so. There definitely seem to be a lot less tension with this board, and they seem more focused on not only doing the work, but also, you know, raising questions as needed and holding different officials accountable.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's I'm happy to hear that, because that's not been something that our board has been,
Right.
yeah,
The-
okay, I'm not gonna finish that thought. You
Well,
can finish.
I understand. I know where you're going, but I would say that with a lot greater confidence that this board has our scholars in mind, and they are ready to move forward with the business of the district um, and and ask questions as needed.
Okay. That's very refreshing. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So we'll move right along to, are there any volunteers for the August meeting? All right, just as a reminder, Hillary, is attending the June meeting. I'll be attending the July meeting, and we'll need somebody for August. All right, so down to new business, notification of upcoming community meetings and other events. Anybody from DeKalb County?
There we go. I can confirm that there are no upcoming community meetings associated with SPLOST from now at least through the summer. We do expect there to be meetings in the fall that will touch on SPLOST related event discussions.
Okay. All right, thank you, Hans. The annual SPLOST audit update, DeKalb County.
There. I can give an update on that as well. I'm not sure exactly what Richard reported on the last meeting, but I do know that we in finance have been working with Molden and Jenkins to wrap up the FY23 audit. That should be, I need to double check that. If it's not done already, it'll be done very soon. I need to make sure that we'll be posting it as soon as we have it, as soon as it's up. And then Georgia audits will be the folks who do the main audit for the audit for the district for the general fund will actually be taking over for FY24 and 25 for SPLOST audit. So they'll be working on that concurrently as soon as FY23 wraps up.
All right. And 10C meeting recommendations list. We used to maintain a spreadsheet with all the recommendations that came out of our meetings. I think that we need to go back to that, because I'm seeing that there are recommendations that we have made during our meetings, but the ball has been dropped. So I'm not sure if there's anybody on the committee who wants to take on that responsibility. And if not, we'll table it to the next meeting to see if someone would be willing to take a volunteer to take on that responsibility. But I think it's something that we need. So we'll move right along to unfinished business. 11A, call for candidates update. I'm not sure if DeKalb County is prepared to provide us with an update.
No, we'll have to wait for the next meeting. Again, since the person running this meeting is in transition and the normal fallback person, Keith, is on vacation now. We'll have to wait till next meeting for an update on candidates.
All right, 11B is absent committee members discussion. And I actually see Min on the call now. Min has been absent from our meetings for the entire year. I think this is the first meeting that she has attended, and per our bylaws, we are supposed to vote on whether she will continue to be a member of the committee. Since we do not have a quorum, we cannot vote on it again. So that will be moved to our June meeting. Any questions? All right. Moving right along to 12, which is collection of recommendations from the meeting and follow-up matters for the next meeting. The only thing that I have, or a couple of things, the facilities maintenance report will be for next month will include April and May's information. And we need someone for the Board of Education meeting for August. And the call for candidates update will be tabled to our next meeting as well. And Sabrina, I'm sorry, I do apologize. Forgot to put the your subcommittee report on our agenda. No, I'm sorry, it's for our agenda for June. So just giving you a heads up. Will you be ready?
I will keep you posted, Madam Chair. My
Okay.
co is not here. And so I was planning on if you called me during the meeting to give you that update and ask for June, but I will keep you posted in enough time.
Okay. Well, if we need to move it to July, then let me just call me and let me know.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Announcements. And I think there's one announcement from Eric or Hans that needs to be made.
I'm not sure which announcements, unless Eric is aware.
Yeah, I'm talking about why Richard Boyd is not
Oh.
present in this meeting.
Got you. Okay. So yeah, Richard Boyd, who was our district architect, formerly director of design and construction. He was interim COO for a while. Most recently, district architect, has accepted a position in the private sector. And so last Friday was his last day. So he has transitioned out. We are in the process of filling his position, and then also bringing on board, we've posted a director of capital improvement position, which we're hoping to fill soon. So hopefully we'll have an update on that. I would love by next meeting, but we'll see where we are at that point. But very soon, we're hoping to get at least one of those positions filled. So we'll have more people on board. Until then, we'll have to see. Normally, running this meeting would go to Keith Ball, who's unfortunately on vacation this week. So, and we didn't have time to arrange all of the information. So Keith will be giving an update on a few of those things at the next meeting. And then we'll see who the district representative running this meeting will be moving forward after Keith, whether it be remain Keith or maybe when the new person comes on board. We'll have to see in coming meetings. Next meeting will definitely be Keith, though, I can say that.
Okay, any questions for Hans?
Oh, hey Kathy, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do double duty here. I got another meeting in progress that we're working on as well. And I got a bus rider incident that we're still trying to solve. So, but I've been listening as much as I can. Yes, Hans, thanks you for doing that. We are looking at hopefully making a recommendation for that Director of Capital Improvements. That'll be hopefully in June, but we're in the middle of the interview process now. I'd also like to just give in my personal opinion, a lot of praise to Mel Butler and the ASERM team. As you may be aware, ASERM's final day with the DeKalb County School District will be this Friday, May 30th, and I want to personally thank Mel for a huge commitment of service and dedication to helping us get on the right track here, and a lot of progress has been made. And so we applaud him and his team, and we wish them good luck in their next endeavor, and let them be known that they've made a huge contribution to the DeKalb County School District over the last several years. So Mel, thank you. We're as you know, you and I have already talked, but it's been a pleasure and been an honor.
Yep. Thank you, Eric. And if you hadn't said it, then I would have here at the end of the meeting. But I also want to say thank you very much to Mel and to the whole ASERM team. I've worked with them for several years, and it's been a pleasure. They've been an enormous part of the capital improvements program here in the district, and making sure everything keeps moving forward through everything over the past several years. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And since we're passing out praises to Mel, let me just throw my little 2 cents in. Mel, thank you so much for your professionalism. Your every question that I felt was kind of like, that may be a stupid question. You answered it with very professional ease, and I do appreciate that. And you took your time to make sure that we understood the information that you were presenting to us. So thank you so much. You definitely will be missed. Now I got to find somebody else to share their screen, man. But we do wish you all the luck in the world. Hopefully our paths will cross again. But just thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your support, Kathy, and the entire committee.
All right. Any other announcements from anybody? All right. Our next meeting will be June 25th, 2025. Please make sure that that's on your calendar at 6 p.m. We want to make sure that we get in, and we need to make sure that everybody shows up. So if you know somebody who wasn't here, please give them a call and ask them to show up, because now, as you can see, we've got now 1, 2, 3. We'll have three items on our agenda that we need to vote on, and that takes some time. So we want to make sure that that we're all in place so that we can do our due diligence. It's only, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours a month that we invest in this committee, which is very, very important. So, please put it on your calendars. And I think that is it. It's now 7:22 and our meeting is adjourned.